Hey everyone, it's Abhiram, and today you are watching our Beyond Thumbs Python tutorials. So, I've always wanted to do that. Switch it up today. It's the Disney Channel thing. So, today what are we doing? So, today it's our 12th or 13th Python tutorial, I think. And we're going to be discussing lists today. So, we're starting a new section in our Python learning. And it's going to be all about data types. So it's not what you guys exactly think it's going to be. So we're going to be mostly covering lists and objects like that. So we're going to be covering lists, and then we'll move on to tuples, sets, dictionaries, and strings. So it's a pretty fun chapter, and this is where things start to get more complex. So it's not like you guys have to be worried or anything, but just practice a little. And you guys should follow along and be great. So, you guys have all heard of lists before. We discussed them when we were talking about loops. And today the difference is we're going to be going a lot more in depth. So what are lists? Lists are dynamic, changeable sized arrays. And within lists you can have all types of data types, right? And lists are organized through a definite sequence, right? We know that beginning at 0, that's what lists do. And lists are permitted to allow duplicate values. So lists are obviously a pretty powerful tool, and today we're just going to go into more of what makes them so powerful. So let's start off with a little overview on creating a list. Okay, sorry that took so long. I'm a slow typer. Get it? Because of the speeding up. But yeah, so what we're doing here is we're having a simple overview of creating a list. I've made 2 examples. We have our blank list, and we have a new list where we're just having a set of numbers. So I'll go ahead and try this out. Right? And you can see it says print list. It has our blank list. It's kind of unrefined. We've talked about that before. It's all unrefined data since we're simply just printing out our basic list. And we're doing a little type conversion. You guys see that here. But once again, this is just our basic definition of a list in Python. So now that we have a quick understanding of the basic way to create a list, let's go on to talk about accessing elements within a list. So I'll go ahead and show you guys a quick example of this. Okay, so here I've done a quick example of accessing elements within a list. And before we start straight up just accessing elements, it's important to understand that there are 2 types of accessing. And it's not within Python, but it's within our daily language. So let's say I asked you to pick the first animal or the second animal within a list. So that has very different meaning from picking the animal at position 1 or position 2. So that difference is the difference between ordinal and cardinal accessing. So ordinal is where you think about ordered, right? We ordering our lists, and it starts with 0. So when I say the first animal, you're always going to be thinking ordering it in terms of 0. So our first animal would be the 0th position. Whereas the animal at 1 is cardinal, and you can think of it more like drawing a card. And you're basically selecting the animal at position 1. So that's just a quick, easy way to differentiate between ordinal and cardinal, right? Ordinal, ordered, cardinal, drawing cards, right? So we can go ahead and try out this program, and you can see for our first animal, it's going to be printing. Right, so first, let me just start out at the beginning. We have panda, favorite animals, and we're accessing our 6th. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, our panda right there. And we're just doing a quick example of accessing. And then here we have our ordinal versus cardinal. The first animal, we're using 0 to access it. And then the animal at 1 is 1. So you can see very, very different things. So right here, I made a little check yourself before you wreck yourself simulation-y thingy. And what you're going to be doing here is simply going to check yourself, right? This is just a little way for you to figure out your understanding of ordinal versus cardinal positioning. So simply go through and try to answer out each of the questions. Think of it like a little pop quiz, I guess, and then I'll come back and show you how to do it. So go ahead, have fun. Okay, by now I'm guessing you guys went through that extremely tough quiz and you made it out okay. So I'll go ahead and walk through quickly the different answers, and it's going to be more of like just a quick check of how you guys did it. So let me go ahead and begin. Right, so I went through this little quiz and hopefully your answers match what I've gotten, and hopefully I'm not wrong about any of my answers. But yeah, just a quick example. Animal at 3, looking back at our list, 0, 1, 2, 3, zebra. So I got that one correct. And the fifth animal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our fifth animal is the hippo. So that was just a quick quiz, just to help you guys build your skills so you don't have to go ahead and practice or get confused about it later. And now let's move on to adding and inserting into a list. So this is obviously a super important feature. We do this all the time. You can think about like I'm blanking now, but in Super Smash Bros, if any of you guys have that game, what you do simply is you can make a name for yourself just at the top, so when you're fighting it shows up as like whatever you picked. And when you enter a new name, what you're doing simply is adding or inserting into our list. So that's just a quick example, and I'll go ahead and show you guys how it is done. Right, so I have completed this little program on adding and inserting. So it looks a little daunting, but don't get too scared. What we're doing right here is we have our object, and I have a blank list right here called the object list. And in this first part, we're using a method called append, and we're simply just adding a bunch of values. So it's going to be back to back to back to back, right? So it's going to end up saying blue, red, yellow in our list. And then it's filled with these objects, and we can go ahead and print out our objects right here. And then in this next part, we're going to be adding in numbers from 1 through 4. Sorry, 1 through 3, not including 4, because that's what occurs with our range method. I think I've mentioned it earlier. And lastly, we're using an insert tool, which will simply insert whatever objects we like into this specific position. So that is where this positioning also has a little bit more importance, and it's important that you guys understand how positioning works, especially if you're asked to add a value into a specific position. The wording of their sentence matters extremely, so that's how you can utilize your learning in that scenario. So now that we've talked about adding and inserting, it's extremely important that we know the opposite as well, because once you add, you need to learn how to subtract. So now we're going to be talking about removing and popping objects within our list. Okay. Nice. So I finished this removing and popping little program. And similarly, when we were discussing adding and inserting, we used the methods append and insert. So it's important for you guys to understand those methods. And just like we have those two methods, we now have remove and pop. So pop's a little bit more fun of a method, but what remove does is exactly what it sounds. It simply removes whatever value you specify. So you see right here, I'm picking the object at the 5th position. So at that point, once we remove orange, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be removing violet from our list. And lastly, what pop does is does a little bit it does exactly what it sounds like. It just pops a value out of its list. So that's what it's going to be doing. So let me go ahead and run both these programs so you guys can see what exactly they're doing. All right, so you see how we're adding values into our list. We're adding 1, 2, 3. And then here you can see how we are removing values from within our list. So first we have all this huge list, and then it gets removed down because we remove orange and violet from our list, and then it gets removed even further. So I hope this gave you guys a little glimpse as to all the different things that lists can do. There are obviously tons of methods, but I wanted you guys to get the important stuff down first, and that's basically using positioning within lists. So once again, I hope you had fun. Be sure to try this out, and there'll be tons of online resources in which you can challenge yourselves and try new things. So I recommend you guys to check out, I think Programmiz is what I use generally when researching some of this stuff. And I think if you also search up Python learning books or Python free learning books, there's some open source books that you can use, which will have tons of great challenges. So once again, I will be linking my video into the description below. And thank you. Have a great day. I'm going to take a nap. Bye.